Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and you won't need the two clues of a Deliveroo driver and an Indian gentleman to know what I'm building today because, well, you looked at the thumbnail presumably, but if you have come in blind, I'm building the long-awaited Indian restaurant for the old town of Brick Nottingham because, well, what British city would be complete without somewhere to go for a mean curry at the end of the evening? Somewhere rubbish, presumably, like Brick Derby. Anyway, make mine a jalfrezi. But first of all, some amendments suggested by you of the very many that were made for my marina area. First of all, just adding a dinghy, this one of the Coast Guard variety, to the boat ramp to break it up, and that looks pretty good actually. I think I'm going to try some more drastic ideas as well, which include the cross section in future weeks, but yeah, this is a good holding pattern. I like that splash of orange colour. Another one is around our caught shark hanging here, dropping its belly contents onto the dock. And I thought this might be too much gore, but no, pretty much universally you said it's not enough gore. We want more, so I've added more tilage and a whole Lego arm. Oh no, where did that come from? We might have to do a minifigure walking around the harbour, missing one now. But we've also got a number plate there to represent these sort of swimming dustbins of the sea, and that scene from Jaws, of course, which does the same thing. So I think that is a great improvement. So if either of those were yours, then this is your bedoing. Lovely. Good. Bedoing's awarded, and on to the build, which despite being in my old town, I do want it to be very South Asian themed, so it's very unmistakable as a curry restaurant. In fact, we could call it the Taj Mahal or something like that because, well, A, a lot of them are called names like that, and B, we're going to have this great big onion dome on the top of it, so that might be a very good idea indeed. So yeah, we are going to have lots of medieval looking buildings in the old town, as well as a few sort of done in more recent years. And you know, sometimes there's a gap in between two and, well, they build something completely different. I want this to stand out and look like exactly what it is, a great place to get a curry. So yeah, I've gathered all of these pieces from many different brick hauls and one from a contribution from a subscriber, but they all come from the same set, 7418, the Scorpion Palace, a lovely 2003 Orient Expedition set with the great big palace, of course, an elephant, the old school one, and a big Indiana Jones style sort of boulder rolling after Baron von Baron. In my opinion, he should try running sideways instead of trying to outrun the boulder. Just top tip there if you're ever in that sort of situation. But anyway, yeah, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts from that set. Obviously, the massive onion dome, which was unique to that set. There were other sets with different colour. I think it was pink or something hideous, but this is rather amazing. And we'll cap this to a T, I think. The hardest ones to get, arguably, especially for two, are these lovely 6 long arches with this patterning on that definitely looks very Taj Mahal-y, very South Asian, very colourful and very interesting. So those are the ones that really inspired me to do a curry house when I just bought the first one, speculatively, having never seen it before. But there are other bits to that set as well, like this shield, which I'm just going to use as some sort of wall decor, and more wall decor with this lovely carpet. Yeah, and it's even got the clips so we can hang it. That one's actually already been in my antique shop as part of Fast Food Corner. But as I say, I'll send a second one, so this is an absolutely perfect location to use that. So yeah, when I was designing this, I thought I could build a really big restaurant with loads of seating, much like I did with the Italian restaurant. Lots of different scenes inside and out. But when I thought about it being in the old town, it seemed to fit really well. And therefore, I want to keep it as small as possible, because in that, I'm really going to be making tiny shops, sort of 6 wide and 8 wide and all the rest of it. So, yeah, I want to kind of keep this to a minimum as well, but I can't make it too small because of that absolutely massive dome. So, yeah, it's going to be kind of a typical Lego build in the fact that it's going to have probably an open back. It's going to have probably no room for a decent kitchen or anything like that. And well, if I really like the idea and you really like it, then maybe we'll make it a bit bigger and put it somewhere else instead. But that is what I'm going to try and do first. Make it absolutely as small as possible whilst cramming in the details, proper Robin Hood brick style. So let's get started with the ground level. Great, right, on to the build, which I'm doing today on this 16 by 16 spare plate, because when I've got all the constituent parts of the old town, I want to be able to move them very easily and kind of change the combinations and orders of all these things so everything looks its absolute best. I want all of these pieces to be very visible on display, because this is going to be one of the highlights of that area, I think, with the wonderful dome. And I don't want you to be able to see into the open back from the main viewing angle. And that dome was harder to incorporate than you might think. It's not actually half of a perfect dome. It's kind of about 2/3 of one. So if you get another one and put it side by side, it looks really weird and out of proportion, more like a circus tent. So that's why I decided to only have one and have it with the open back, which I could put another table in, or maybe even turn into a kitchen, but then I wouldn't have stairs anywhere and I'd get complaints. So yeah, I'm going to seal it in today, but it doesn't mean I can't come back and do that at a later date. The other part of the design process was deciding on the colour scheme, which I think because of these has to be white brick, but I'm going to use the blue, a dark red, and kind of yellow or tan or even gold as highlights. So I think that'll be really good as well. And that's why we've got this lovely dark red carpet as the main section of the flooring. Anyone guess where the door's going to be? Right, so I think we can get started with some blue. And I'm just going to put in some placements for a table and 2 chairs. Basically, we're not going to have much space on the inside. We can imagine this thing is going to go ... into the background perhaps, or that it's got more tables, but it's important that we get sort of the hint of what's going on rather than have it complete. I'm not going to have tables outside because we'll have all the cobbled streets, of course. So just one table on the inside, and also a very important part of any Indian restaurant, the bar, because yeah, essentially they all look pretty much the same, and they all have a bar with a couple of taps on for lager. So I've just made some with little tap pieces, headlight bricks, and a sort of lever to get it going, and a little shield on each. So we've got 2 different types of lager. I'm sure Kingfisher will be one of them. That always seems to be available, doesn't it? So that is there. And then we need somebody to operate it. So we've got this chap who's working there part-time, in his very smart outfit. I don't know what they call them, the sort of Indian jackets without the collar, but they're usually incredibly smart. And I thought this one was absolutely perfect for it. It's actually originally a Bespin Guard uniform from the Cloud City in the film Empire Strikes Back, of course, where Harry Skywalker is trained as a Jedi by Dobby the Sock Elf. Unforgettable. So yeah, he can be in there smiling and pulling all of the beers for the table, because as anyone will know who's ever been to a proper British curry house, curry is, well, only half of the equation. The other half is lager. And yeah, it's very important, in fact essential, to line up the lagers, 2 each minimum, just to get started with. So I've got a table with 4 lagers on, so when we add some customers, they can really get started before their food arrives. So that's the inside there. Right, so then we can add some walling. I've got a clock just mounted on the inside because I thought, why not? I was putting in some 1x2 plates and thought I'll put that there. We'll never see that again, will we? And some basic windows. And I'm using these lovely ornate fence pieces because I wanted to get more of that Taj Mahal feel into it. So I'm going to do a 3-deep kind of archway with these arches on the outside, obviously, so we've got the pattern, then more archways, and then this is the backdrop. So hopefully it'll have real interest and depth. So that one can go there. And I'm aware the door won't open with that stud, but that's where I want our proprietor to stand with the door open. So that is fine by me. So yeah, pretty basic there. And then the sides, well, I won't go into how I built those because you can pretty much work it out with a nice blue band and a nice tan band. And on this one, whoop, I'll just throw it over there. I've got some clips for our carpet to be on the inside of the door. And I don't know if I'm going to remove this sticker or not. I've left it on for now because it really depends where it's located in the old town. It's kind of a United Colours of Benetton type advert, I think, in my mind, for some clothing. Basically, it's two footballers who were in a defensive wall in an old football set. So yeah, I might remove that advertisement later, but it was on a nice convenient brick, so it's going in for now on the outside of there. Probably will remove it or maybe replace it with another panel if I get one. But there we go. So there is our very basic insides, but I think it looks rather fantastic. It's got everything you need apart from customers, lots of lager, a nice bit of ornate decor, and the beginning of that 3D setup. Great, cool. Let's get on with the big ornate pillars on the outside. Well, if you're enjoying the build and you want to see it incorporated into the city at a future date, then why not consider subscribing to the channel if you think I deserve it. 37,700 people can't be wrong, and, well, if you join them, you'll help us achieve our heady goal of 100,000 subscribers. Yeah, it seems quite a way off, and that's why I need your help. So, why not support the channel for free and click that button? So we won't be seeing a huge amount of the inside when this is in location, but yeah, a bit of a guy and some lager through a window is plenty. But the archway on the outside, I think we'll see a lot more. And I want to give it some serious depth with 3 layers, as I said earlier. And one way to accentuate that is to add a slightly different colour to some of the columns. So I'm going to use some tan instead of just white, and some of these lovely 1x1x6 round support pillars on the outside as well. And then I'm going to add the white again to the outside. So I've kind of got white, tan, white, and I've used more of these corrugated palisade bricks just for a little bit of texture, and then brought in the blue layer again on those front pillars. So you see, it just gives it a little bit more depth. That's my thinking anyway. Before we add all of our small arch pieces in the tan colour first of all, and this is where I have to be a bit careful. Ooh. And the idea here was to have this sort of encapsulating some of that ornate fencing behind it without obstructing it. So you kind of got a double layer, and then we can add our lovely colourful decorated arches, 1 and 2 side by side in prime position, and they overlap but not completely conceal the tan ones behind them. So you've kind of got that multi-layered thing. And when I did this, I just thought it looked lovely. Hopefully it's not too lower level or too concealed when it's in the city to not see this again. But you've got the white one with that ornateness, then a splash of the tan, and then the fence piece behind. And I just think that that looks really deep and really interesting. And you see the tan sort of in all of the gaps as well. So yeah, that is my finest part of this build, if you ask me. I think it looks absolutely beautiful and very in keeping with our Taj Mahal theme. Right, so then I need to basically add a few pieces just to fill in all of the gaps. And this is where I'm bringing back much more of the dark red and blue for another kind of stripe here. And I'm even adding some gold 1x1 bits as well. So that is highlighted with a bit of bling, because it wouldn't be South Asian without a little bit of bling, I don't think. Cool, so then we can add that in there, and I'm going to add a bracket in that dark red there, and that is what's going to take our next piece. Just added a 1x1 stud on the back there, so it'll fit, and we can put that as the real pièce de résistance above the 2 arches. Now I've just got to decide if I want it like that or like that. I think that might look better. Tell me what you think, but that's pretty cool if you ask me. And then for the outside, we may as well finish the lower scene. We'll have the owner opening a door and giving us a nice wave. And I thought on the other side we'd have a very stereotypical scene, but you know, it was provided by the Series 13 Snake Charmer, who provided us with a Cobra. So it'd be a bit of a shame if I didn't have a Snake Charmer with the pipe blowing away outside. So I guess he's part of the entertainment. And I've given him sort of blowy, puffy face, and he looks a bit scared as well. So I think that's quite appropriate. And we can have the back of the Cobra facing him with the patterning on its hooded head and the basket that it's come out of here as well, just with a sort of cauldron piece. And I think, although quite stereotypical, I think that is quite fun as well. So why not celebrate all those visions of India in one place? Fantastic. And bear in mind, we're probably not going to see the sides at all again, including the advert, when it's closely crammed in with neighbours. So yeah, it's really just that very front scene we'll be seeing with that lovely triple arch. What do you think of that? We interrupt this build for a quick space station update. Yes, it is still firmly attached to the ceiling after a prolonged period. That is a very good thing to see. And I had a couple of suggestions around this actually. One was to add a telescope in place of one of these dishes on the outside. And I thought, well, that just won't work, will it? Because if this thing's spinning on its axis to create the gravity that allows the astronauts to walk around that outer rim, then, well, it's not going to be able to focus on a single star very well, is it? But then another person pointed out that, well, if it's spinning, then how are these spaceships going to dock very accurately when you've got great big sort of solar arrays swinging around at speed in space? That's going to be practically impossible. And yeah, that's a good point. That's probably why most of these space stations in science fiction have the dock right in the middle where I've done the power thing. Anyway, we're not going to think about that anymore. So yeah, it's perfect just the way it is. Well, with the Deliveroo driver, you can almost imagine a street scene already. And, well, in fact, with the dome placed where it is behind it, you can almost imagine what the roof's going to look like as well. But, yeah, I've done a little setup here, bringing in the tan stripe, but with all of that lovely red and blue colouring as well for the roof. It's got all of these attachment points. So, yeah, it's a pretty small kitchen, come sort of second floor for dining if we want to add that. But, yeah, we could do. Just whether you'd ever see it again once it's deliberately facing away from the viewing angle, whether that's actually worth it is another question. But yeah, that can go on there, bringing in loads of colour. And then one of my favourite simple ways to add texture is just with these plates with the slide on. And a bit behind the shield. So that brings all of that together. And then a bit more bling with these kind of fence pieces. They're a bit low. Don't know what you'd call those. They're in the fence section of the Bricklink catalogue anyway. So that's a bit more gold. I like that. And then I was also sent in these pieces, which I'm going to be using on sort of beach scenes and all the rest of it. These lovely sort of slopes. Somebody got a load of them, presumably on a pick a brick wall. So I'm going to incorporate those into the roof line as well. And then for even more bling, I'm going to add some gold cones on as well. Because, yeah, we need a bit of decor. Look at that. That's looking very grand already. So the bit you've probably been waiting for is the incorporation of the dome. And how about that? Wow, it's too tall for my current setup of camera, but you get the idea. It looks absolutely lovely, doesn't it? Now, I was thinking of having it on the back, but then it looked a bit weird. So I've pushed it forward, which means, well, we've got a very prominent open back as it stands. So I thought the best way was to kind of enclose that against the backdrop, and it might even make it pop a little bit more when other things in the city are behind it. So no expense spared. I've made a great big massive wall of dark grey bricks in a kind of profile that will not overlap the dome too much, essentially. So that is going on to there. And then on the back of that, I've got some bits to represent an air conditioning system, which you'll probably, again, never see because it's behind this great big grey edifice. But yeah, that gives us this nice backdrop for the dome. Now, before I put on the crowning glory of a few more pieces, I think I need to adjust my camera a little bit higher. Ah, lovely. That is very nice, isn't it? So yeah, what do you think of the grey backdrop? You kind of don't see it too much. And it does stop it looking weird from an angle, or if you were to lean into the Lego room, and a bit more detail if you did. So yeah, I like that, and I especially like the blue and dark red flashes around its base. I think that looks really good tying in with that front view. But to finish it off, I need to attach these two bits together so they are strong. I'll just use that with some blue there, stud, and then two quarter tiles to keep the rounded front. Oh, just push all that together. And then I can add a little dome topper with another cone and a ski pole in gold kind of like you would get on a Hogwarts set or something like that. So that crowns it off, and wow, doesn't that look grand? I absolutely love it. So yeah, it's all based on these arches and this lovely dome piece. I just had to get them into my city somehow, and if that doesn't look fantastic, then well, I don't know what's wrong with you really. Maybe you don't like curry. But yeah, if you don't or you haven't, you must try it because it is absolutely fantastic. I know our American friends are less into it for obvious reasons, but yeah, absolutely fantastic. I love this. It's another interesting shape, but it's also another interesting colour scheme. And that is going to contrast really well with the Old Town. Or will it? I'm kind of in two minds myself. Although I think the arches look great and everything looks quite authentic. Maybe next to more traditional old historic buildings in the Old Town, this will stand out like a sore thumb and look like a bit of an eyesore. Now, if that is the case, we can always move it somewhere else into a more modern part of the city. And that would also mean we could actually add some wings on, kind of like that old Scorpion Palace, and maybe have some more seating on either side, and maybe incorporate that kitchen in the roof with a dumbwaiter or something that brings food up and down the different levels. So you have to let me know what you think about that. But I think I do want to try at least to incorporate it into the Old Town first. So yeah, we'll leave that for a while, that decision. Until we know more, but that looks pretty good. I really like the snake charmer on the cobbled street, not cobbled yet, but it will be. The dome, all of that detail on the inside, masses of lager, the carpet, the Bespin Guard uniform guy. You have to tell me the name of those jackets, but best of all, I just love the arches, or the dome, or the arches. I'm not sure. Both. I love it all. Well, Taj Mahal-tastic and Vindaloo-mungus, this is a great start to the Old Town, which I'm hoping will have about 20 things in it by the end. Some very, very small, some barely with an interior, but a lot of the kind of ideas, things like the card shop and things that I've mentioned before, that won't justify a big build all on their own, all kind of crammed in side by side using all sorts of different architecture. Whether or not this architecture is one of the things that works well in that area or not is open to discussion. But wherever it ends up, and whether it ends up being bigger and with a kitchen or just this very small sort of snapshot of a lovely eatery, I think it looks absolutely lovely. And I've done myself proud with these wonderful parts that won't be in many people's cities, I don't think. So I'm very happy with it. But do tell me, as always, if you think there's a way I can improve it, or something else I can add or something like that, and try and earn yourself a nice shiny bedoing. Cool. So as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome Lego builds. And for those of you that love my brick hauls, they will be returning this week on my sister channel, Brick Haul O'Clock, after the hiatus of the last couple of months, where I've got a complete backlog of all sorts of stuff, including lovely subscriber packages, so I can look forward to opening all of those. That will be lovely, I'm sure. And if you value these channels, there are many ways in which you can support them. Do check out the links in the description below. And then after that, Brick Haul will be back here in the city for some more city development, or maybe another build like this one. Awesome. So until next time, see you. Now, do we need 20 poppadoms or 30? Better be safe. Let's get 40.